Hello, Outposters, and welcome. I have a special guest with me here today, Nick Loeb, who did the newest and certainly not at all controversial movie Roe versus Wade. I mean, this should end up on Disney Plus, right? No problem.
100%. 100%.
So I like the movie very much.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching, you can read my review on LastMovieOutpost.com because I'm going to do whatever I can. The one thing I was struck by is that I think it is an important movie. I think people need to watch it. I think they need to do their research on the facts. I also think it's really easy to make a Schindler's List. Insofar in everybody agrees Holocaust bad. You're making something that most of Hollywood, the press, the culture barons, and given their ability to react totally rationally, how bad has the backlash been for you?
Well, it's not. I mean, there's been sort of ebbs and flows, right? So there's a lot of backlash when we were making it. It's been a little quiet on the home front because not many people have seen it. Now, I'll tell you, I've started to show it to some of the liberal media because I just think it's more fun to get the reviews. And like we were actually, I mean, we literally just sent out reviews like 2 weeks ago when you got it. A couple people have reviewed it because they saw it at the premiere that we hadn't sent it to. But those were our, obviously going to be friendly to us. But I think a lot of people, maybe like you, they were, a lot of the reviewers took a very intellectual approach, and I think, and we get criticized, by the way, like that. This was what hurts the pro-life side is we criticize ourselves. Like the pro-choicers, they just don't care. Like whatever, you can do whatever you want to do to get your point across, but we can't win because we continue to beat ourselves up. And so, originally I made a when I started first screening the movie, I was getting criticized. Nick, they were like, by my own people who were seeing it, they said, Nick, that didn't happen. I was there. I was part of the movement. You made that up. Blah 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 blah. And so I then went and put this fact check sheet that nobody was believing the things that we put out there up on screen. And so a lot of the reviews initially were great from CPAC. They were very intellectual. They dug deep into the history. They really liked, the movie for having, but they would come across like you said, well, we're pro-life, but we're going to take this from a really critical approach because this is really an important topic and we do criticize each other. And the reviews were fantastic and phenomenal. What's been really fun are the most recent reviews that have come out, like today from The Guardian.
Oh, I have some quotes here for that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Female and all the woman who directed this were both sexist, which I think is fantastic. And then for your audience who doesn't know, the cast is John Voight, John Schneider, Robert Davi, Corbin Burnson, Wade Williams, Joey Lawrence, Stacey Dash, Jamie Kennedy. Yet The Guardian said nobody wanted to be involved in our movie.
Well, the review I read had this sentence, which I was like, the lack of self-awareness is unbelievable. A quote, and they want to spew this deeply biased anti-abortion malarkey as inartfully as possible. You use the word spew, malarkey, and inartfully while criticizing that it's biased. My head exploded.
It's fantastic. Well, it's like they can't criticize the validity. They're just going to start criticizing you. The greatest criticism that I found, even the Washington Post came out a year ago, and I even saw, I can't remember, some random review criticizing the movie for having, for being sexist by having all male Supreme Court. And I wanted to take this time on your show to truly apologize that we didn't choose to gender transition any of the historically accurate male justices.
Look, if they said they were women, that's all it took. So you don't have to. They may have been. You don't know.
Is really. This is super exciting for me. I love these reviews because these are the reviews that actually spark the debate. And for us to come out with, a middle of the road review, or even, doesn't really help. A really great review helps because then it gives me fodder to go back to somebody else. But a really bad review helps too. And it depends on how they review it, right? I mean, if all the reviews are bad and there's some consistencies, well, the wardrobe and the production design was great, but the acting sucked, and that was the same theme throughout, you can understand there's some validity to that. But everybody came up with a different thing which they thought was bad in it, and there's just no rhyme or reason. It's truly because there is bias, and I understand that, and I think it's hard for people to make a judgment on something when they have a bias going into that. But at the same time, depending on the film critic, a lot of these are supposed to be professionals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with bias as much as I have with dishonesty. One of the other things the guy said, and I quote, how the abortion rights advocate Lawrence Lader concocted a plan to puppeteer two inexperienced female lawyers to prey on a supposedly desperate bumpkin in Norma McCovey, the Roe and Roe v. Wade, to weaponize her in an unsuspecting court system. But you show the actual interview where she says that. The actual person, when she was on Ted Koppel, who says that. So please tell me why it's wrong. What's the supposedly?
Because they don't like it.
Of course it is. But I mean, it's a dishonesty. It's ridiculous.
Well, they don't like it, so it's wrong. And so, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, even the most sort of, the problem, I think, the challenges sometimes are truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, yes, was it hokey to watch two guys from New York on the beach hitting girls, drinking daiquiris, planning strategy on abortion? Was that hokey, weird, and strange? It looked like it was slapstick? Yes, but guess what? That's how they did it. They went to St. Croix, and they drank those daiquiris. They didn't start work until the end. And they called them working vacations, and literally they wrote about that they did just that. So that's how he wrote it.
Oh, wow. I mean, well, after seeing The Wolf of Wall Street, I don't believe anything these people will do. I couldn't find much on the movie initially. Now, like I said, the Guardian one came out today, but initially I was only seeing stuff on the conservative sites, and I felt the same way as you do. It's like, it's great that the choir is happy, but are you getting out there more and more? Are you even getting a fair shot to just? Well, yeah,
I tell people, I'd rather them talk about us than not talk about us at all, right? I mean, it would be worse if they just didn't talk about us. And so, we've essentially been saving everything, for starting next week into release, because unlike a theatrical release, everything is almost like instant gratification and direct response, right? People can see something that everyone reads today online,
right?
And now they can read it and go buy it immediate, not wait 3 months for it to come out in the movie theater, for everybody. And we also don't have the money. We're not a studio movie to run $20 million in ads and build up, a 3-month awareness campaign. And so for us, it's to, get it all out there now, start the debate, and, hopefully, all the press will start to line up next week, the week before release.
Now, will it actually be in theaters, or is it just going to be streaming only?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's no theaters, and the problem with theaters today, there's still
the pandemic,
capacity issues. Not all are open. It's very challenging. And then if you do go in, like the few theaters that are open at that capacity, then the theaters will still require you to hold back your film for another 3 months before you release it streaming. So there's no value to it. So now I've got to go do press twice, like once for the theater release and then all over again for the streaming release. And so it's a different model today, and most of the studios are sort of just going to streaming first. There are some that are doing theatrical, but I think, and to be honest, the math is better at the end of the day. The streamers don't take as much off the table as the studios. as the theaters. I mean, don't as the streamers.
No, I would imagine not. And judging from how the theater model, first of all, I think the theater model is outdated anyway at this point, and should just be owned by the studios. But that's a whole different discussion. But now with the pandemic, I mean, I could see why you just want to put it on streaming. The actors you have, I mean, most are clearly known. Some are I hadn't heard of before, or I know like Greer Grammer. That she was Kelsey's, but she hasn't done much. But I don't know.
She's literally, I don't know if you saw this week, she's literally on every news thing this week.
Oh, good for her.
It's sort of serendipitous. Some movie that she does hit it, and now she's literally on, her IMDb ranking went from like 7,000 to like 120.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, she was good in it, I think. And
very good actor. She had me rooting. I tell people, when she gave that speech in court for the women, I literally was cheering with her. I'm like, wait a second, I'm pro-life, but I'm like, it was such a good. And my point of doing that was like, I didn't want to vilify. Like, I did want to make them look good and care, and because that was the truth of the time. Some people did care, and they all had their agenda. Hers was different, but there's, anyway.
Well, I did feel like one of the things I said in the review is that I felt like you took a side, but you didn't take a shot at the other side. And I thought that was important for credibility reasons, because it showed that, yes, your character and I'm sorry, I forget his name. I'm blanking on his name.
Jamie Kennedy.
Larry. They were clearly working it for the money, although yours was obviously a little bit more sincere. But that there were others that they were working with that were very sincere and believed this idea. And I don't know if maybe at the time, I think women, there was maybe some more cultural, I don't want to say oppression of women, but maybe repression a little bit. The problem is, I think they picked the wrong hill to die on as being abortion. And now I kind of wonder if somebody back then would have listened to Northam saying, yeah, I think post birth abortion is fine, if they might have went, wait, whoa. Yeah. We weren't supposed to go that far. But I do appreciate that you took that approach. The actors in it, did they all basically agree, or did you have them all over the board? Some of them really.
They're all. I mean, on the issue. I would say the majority are pro-choice.
Okay.
Even the well-known conservatives, who I'm not going to say who they are in the movie, were pro-choice.
Okay, that's interesting, and yet they agreed to do it anyway.
I mean, I could tell you, like, Robert Davi will tell you, listen, Nick, I'm a Catholic, I'm pro-life, and I played the most liberal justice ever on the Supreme Court because I'm an actor.
Well, I mean, that's great. I hope it doesn't hurt them long term.
Yeah, I don't really think. I mean, these guys are at a point in their career where,
right.
It is what it is at this point.
I was impressed by the acting. I was impressed by the even-handedness. Are you disappointed, or is it just a fight that needs to be fought, that you're not going to probably get the kind of attention that say other important movies that the left would hold up? Because I there's a lot of stuff in here I just didn't know. Like the most liberal justices were the ones most against, the ones by Kennedy. John Schneider's character, he was appointed by Kennedy, and he was completely against it. And the ones appointed by Nixon were the ones that caved. I found that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was so partisan. It was such a partisan issue. I mean, I don't think people in America realized that the dividing line where Republicans took on the abortion debate was Reagan, and it really wasn't. Reagan made it a thing, and that's how Reagan won. And ever since Reagan, abortion became a major political divide. I think the divide back then was mostly about religion, and the majority of the Supreme Court justices at the time were Catholic, or they were pro-life. Yet they voted the other way, which I thought, I thought was the most interesting. So,
Do
but
you
you'll see, see what took place and what they did. To answer your question, yes, if this was a pro-choice movie, I would probably get award nominations.
Yeah.
And probably be up for an Academy Award. I could care less. I mean, about getting an Academy Award. The goal of the film was to tell the truth and change hearts and minds. It wasn't for glory.
I don't mean for glory. I mean that I think there's people that need to see it that are not going to get a chance to see it because it's never gonna fall into their field of vision.
I disagree. I actually disagree. I think it will fall into their field of vision, whether they click play or not. That's a different story. I mean, our film's going to be on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, on demand. Every cable and satellite provider on demand. So, I mean, right now, if you go to iTunes, you can pre-order it. It's right up there. And so, if we get good positioning, and people see it and they order it, and I think there's a shot. I mean, who knows? At the end of the day, we're not going to be in theaters, but I think maybe that's still a better thing. But I think a lot of people are home with nothing to do and no new content. And if it's on page one and people don't think it's a documentary, which is our challenge, I think that, we'll have a good chance of the other side seeing it. Maybe not in droves, but,
Yeah. I mean, I would just, like I said, I see it all over the conservative websites. Now, seeing the one in The Guardian was pretty interesting today. One of the things
you'll see more of those coming up in the next week.
I can't wait. I know you'll get a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes while the audience will be 80%. I mean, this is Hillbilly Elegy all over again.
Well, if that happens, that'll be happy because all those films that did that did $20 to $60 million in sales.
It's a well done movie. I mean, just in terms of as a movie, the costumes, the period piece aspect of it looked like something that would have been made back then. Yeah, I think you did a great job, from technical and the story kept me going along. I do have one thing that the reviewer said. I'm just curious, or I want to give you a chance to rebut or at least give the other side of the story. He says that a crew member accosted a Daily Beast reporter.
I love it. So they completely lied. So essentially the story, what happened, and we actually, it was actually the opposite. So we were shooting in Washington, D.C. We were shooting at the Lincoln Memorial. Corbin Burnson and I think it was Wade Williams were doing a scene in the Lincoln Memorial. I don't remember that conversation, but they were talking. While we're shooting, the Daily Beast had flown out a reporter from LA while we were shooting because we couldn't close the set. It was a public building. The reporter jumped on the set while we're filming, walking behind the actors, scribbling down their dialogue.
Oh my God. During
the take. So one of the PAs runs up and pulls the pad, his car copyright, out of the guy's hand. Well, the guy lost it, started screaming at him, literally verbally and started physically attack our production assistant. We caught it all on video, right? The next day, the Daily Beast came out and said, we attacked one of their reporters without telling the whole story. And then I think we gave, of course, they weren't going to show, we then, tweeted out the video of what really happened. And I can't remember, I think Breitbart or somebody then did the piece on what really happened with the video, but the Daily Beast gets much more pickup than Breitbart. So, that was the true story of what had happened.
Well,
they were so angry that they had to even attack our set.
Well, and that would never be tolerated on a big Hollywood movie, to go in there and start scribbling down the way they keep these things.
I mean, could you imagine if they did that on like a Marvel or a DC movie?
Star Wars.
If the police would have come, the guy would have gone to jail, they would have pressed charges, they would have sued the Daily Beast.
So just so our readers understand, what they're writing down in the Guardian today is that's what they spread to you, and you.
It's completely fake news.
Completely fake stuff, and you have video to debunk it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to give you a chance to rebut that, because that kind of, I was like, I don't believe it. That my first response was, I don't believe it. So I wanted you to have a chance to look at that. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. I do appreciate it. I know you have a lot going on. Where you said it'll be mostly on VOD. Will it be on any streaming services, or just going to start out VOD for now?
Yeah, we'll start up premium VOD. I mean, certainly how that works in terms of going to subscription services like your Netflix and Hulu's. That happens like 3 months after, and we don't know which ones will pick that up until we see how we perform on VOD. I can probably already tell your audience that Netflix will not pick it up. But,
no, they're too busy doing things like Cuties.
But you listen, you never know. But I do appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
No, I appreciate it very much. So, Outposters, Roe v. Wade will be out April 2nd, I believe.
April 2nd, Good Friday.
I'm glad it's not April 1st. So you would have all sorts of stuff.
But there will be articles talking about how this was a joke. Anyway.
Yeah, they
should have been on April 1st. Somebody will say it.
It's a good movie. You can read my review. I suggest everybody go and watch it. I have my biases, but look it up yourself. And Nick, good job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And that was Nick, and we will see you at lastmovieoutpost.com, and take care, and we'll see you for the next stream.